and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of Season 5 of the RFC Tuesday podcast. And I am your anchor for tonight. I'm Kuya Ryan Daes, and joining me tonight is our beloved IARFC Philippines President, Sir Boyet Benavides. Thank you for joining me, Sir Boyet.
Thank you, Ryan, and good evening to you and to all our podcast viewers.
Yes, exciting times. Ang ganda ng topic natin tonight, Sir Boyet.
Exciting season opener.
Yes, very exciting indeed. So this season, we'll be having our friends from IARFC USA again. So they'll be sharing with us challenges that they have been experiencing for quite a while on their side of the planet, learnings that can help us here in the Philippines prepare with the challenges that many of us are actually experiencing already. Kaya lang, hindi pa natin na-articulate or it's just starting or it's just about to happen. This is why we have entitled this season, Preparing Our Practice for the New Challenges of the Times.
But before we start, we thank IARFCPH, the Philippine chapter of the International Association of Registered Financial Consultants, for putting together this podcast. The IARFCPH is an association dedicated to the craft of financial consulting, and it is the sole organization authorized to conduct the RFC conversion courses as well as continuing education in the field of financial planning. We are your hosts tonight. I am Boyet Benavides, a registered financial consultant and licensed trust practitioner.
I am Kuya Ryan Daes, a registered financial consultant, a chartered wealth manager, and a registered estate planner.
Kuya Ryan, tonight we have a very special guest in the person of Dr. James L. Flannagan, MRFC. He is the founder and owner of Bentron Financial Group and has a master's degree in Gerontology with a PhD concentration in leadership and gerontology. So, Dr. Jim works exclusively with people at or near retirement with estate planning and their investments. He has over 30 years of experience in insurance and securities, a frequent speaker for senior groups and private organizations on retirement planning issues. He founded the non-for-profit Celebrating Seniors Coalition, dedicated to serving older adults in their area. Jim also wrote Ask Jim, a financial advice column, Packing for Retirement, a practical guide to prepare for retirement at any age, and Financial Gerontology, the IARFC white paper on the same topic. So fellow RFC and guests, let's all welcome Dr. Jim Flannagan. Jim, welcome to our podcast. It's great to have you here tonight, all the way from Illinois. How did you start with your career in insurance?
Boy, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I started in the life insurance business 33 years ago. I was 21 years old. And my uncle was a sales manager for Prudential, and he recruited me to come and sell. And at the time, I had not yet completed my bachelor's degree. I was young. I didn't have a natural market, and the company actually didn't want to hire me. And I begged them to hire me, and I said, "Please give me an opportunity." So that's how it all started. So I started at Prudential Insurance Company of America in April of 1988. And my job at that time was to sell life insurance to anybody who was in the market for a policy, from mortgage insurance, business insurance. Prudential had other products, but life insurance is the flagship. And so that's kind of how I learned the core of this business and the value of insurance at the heart of what we do as planners and advisors.
And coming from that life insurance background, starting with insurance sales, what led you to the path towards your so-called specialization now that um, it's called financial gerontology? Can you tell us more about it, because it's a new term for us?
Sure. It's actually, it's a very new term here in the United States. It's gaining a lot more traction as the population, not only here, but around the world, ages. People aren't aware of the fact that the fastest growing segment of the population in the United States are people over the age of 80. Okay. And so people are living longer. And it was that. So, it's life experience that always brings us and informs us and changes kind of who we are and what's happening. And so in my life, I lost my oldest child, and I looked at my work and what I was doing. And I was very happy in the business. And I looked at the people that I served, and the ones that I thought I gave the most to, and the ones that got the most from me were all people that had hair that's my color now, gray. And I started, so 22 or 23 years ago, before retirement planning, before any of this, of working with people in retirement, older adults, it was not popular. As a matter of fact, it was frowned upon. If you tried to work with older adults, you must have been some sort of a shyster or a scam artist or something.
Yeah, I
And
would think so, that if you're approaching old people, normally you'll be associated with scam artists, but
right.
they're your market now.
Well, I mean, it evolved. And so my point being that I started then to think about what I really wanted to do in the next phase of my career. And I knew that that I wanted to offer a wider range of services, just beyond insurance, and do more holistic planning. And so I knew that would require a change, and I knew I wanted to do it with older people. And so I decided at that time that I'd form the company that I have now, which is Bentron, which is a word I made up. It takes the Latin root bene, which means well or good, and the Greek root tron, which means instrument of. So Bentron is an instrument of good. And I use this instrument of good to help older adults achieve a healthier, happier, more satisfying life. And we do that in our work as financial advisors. But there's a softer side of the work that we do that goes beyond money, and it's in understanding people's changes in life and where they come from in their lives, their experiences, their education, their background, their relationship with money, their family. And these are things that are not taught in any textbook on life insurance or mutual funds or anything like that. So as I became more involved in working with older adults, I saw this entire area or field of study that I didn't have any knowledge in.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that like what I had learned in the business world is that much of what is known about business is in a textbook somewhere. And I thought, well, maybe this is true about aging. And then as I dug deeper, I found that this was true, and that there was quite a bit of research and study that had been done. And so, I then I studied first at the University of Southern California, the Davis School of Gerontology, under Dr. George Shannon. So I did my work there, and USC is more of a biological science school, whereas Scripps Center at University of Miami in Ohio is more of a social science gerontology. So what gerontology is doing is looking at the biological, the psychological, the social, and environmental aspects of aging. So we're looking at how we change as physical beings, how emotionally we develop, and then how we interface with our environments and how we socialize. So when you really think about how complex that is, and as advisors, as people that are out there interfacing with the public, helping people plan their futures and plan their lives, I think that you have to have some knowledge about what comes next, what to plan for, what to think about, so that you're prepared and not surprised.
No, that's
Wow.
great because I mean that's a different take on aging, on retirement, because it takes into account the social, the emotional, the health aspect, the social aspect of it, and not just uh, probably looking at it as having income while you age and having healthcare. It's more of a holistic approach, a holistic analysis on the aging process, on the aging population into going into retirement.
Yes. You know, a lot of times people become frustrated with me when I won't ask them about their money, because what does the money matter if you're not happy, if someone's depressed, if they don't have purpose and meaning, if they don't have those things kind of figured out, then they're never going to be happy with the work we do with the money. So that's kind of where I start, is to try to figure out, you know, where the people are. And you know, a lot of people are in pretty good shape, meaning that emotionally and from a planning standpoint, they have some direct, they know what they want, they know what they want to achieve. But we go through periods, right? People's health can change, family situations can change, people pass away, and there are always shocks. And it's how we react and respond to those shocks that I think as advisors is where we add value. If we're trusted in those situations, in the most intimate moments in people's lives, then we're doing our jobs right.
Wow. Right here in the Philippines, Jim, we still haven't even graduated, fully funding the retirement of people, and yet we haven't even touched on how we could understand the holistic approach of helping them plan for their retirement. So, uh, given that that's the scenario here, and it's good that we are introducing here, somehow it is true that even in third world countries, people are living longer because of better healthcare. And we are already informing people now. That's the beauty of what we're doing here in the RFC Tuesday podcast. So, what makes financial gerontologist different from a regular financial advisor?
I think the way that a financial gerontologist is going to approach the situation is that, first and foremost, it's not just about old age, it's about aging. And we're all aging, whether we're going from 30 to 40 or 40 to 50 or 70 to 90. We're all aging. And so understanding that, there's a thing in gerontology we call the life course perspective. And it's taking into consideration one's full life experience, not lifespan, but life course. And our life courses are all different. And those life courses are built with certain advantages and disadvantages. And so the financial gerontologist will take into consideration those things when they then sit and work with someone to understand that we're all not going to be in the same place. We all don't have the same resources. So I would say that at the most basic level, that all the planning that we do on every level is holistic. If we're addressing, say, just the need of having a discussion about personal finance, getting someone to understand the need for planning, and then maybe addressing one element of that is a successful plan. And that's at the most basic level. And that happens in third world countries and in first world countries. This is what I'm saying. Here in the United States, we have the same problem communicating the value, getting people to want to allocate the dollars. And again, the reason a lot of this exists is because, and the research is pretty clear, if I offer you something today very special and shiny, or I say you can have it in 5 or 10 years, most people will want it now. So the cost of saving, the cost of planning is one that is not psychologically attractive to human beings. So there was a gentleman, Doug Hershey from the University of Oklahoma, who said the work of a financial advisor is daunting at best because it's difficult to do the work that we do in any situation, in any market, in any part of the world. But the needs are the same, and I think the approach is the same, and it's a basic approach. But in terms of gerontology and advising, I think there's tremendous similarity. But the gerontologist is going to look at the life course perspective, might understand later life and later life transition better, and might integrate some of those things into the plan. And the plan isn't about money. The plan is about, where will I live? Who will take care of me?
Mm-hmm.
And so culturally, this is where your country is very, very advanced over ours. You have a care system in place. It's called family. And family takes care of family, and this is known, so there is no worry. Who do people in the United States look to take care of their families? Filipinos, more often than not. The most trusted, loved caregiver that my family had, took care of my father for 7 years, was a Filipino man. I pray for him every day for what he did for my family. So, and so look at the Indian culture in India, they treat family much the same way. The Latin culture treats it much the same way. But if you go to France or Italy or Ireland or England or the United States, we all look at care very differently. We have this evolving model of, what do we do with people? Where do we put them? And that's not a solution. So while you might say that we're not doing some of these things and we haven't graduated, I would say that you're at the head of the class on certain levels. And so your conversation would be different. I think it would be maybe about, how do we make sure that families can build wealth over time that is measurable, that no matter where it starts from one generation to the next, there is measurable wealth that will transfer, because we are a family and we will maintain wealth and we will grow the wealth together. That's powerful. And I think that's a message that you could communicate.
No, those are two great concepts. No, I read somewhere that as financial advisors, we have the most difficult jobs, because the client's problems are our problems too, and we carry on that problem from their generation to the next, because we are the ones hand holding them as they transition, right? And you illustrated it very well, that in most Asian families, there's that close bond that is not present in other cultures, and the requirements would be different, because now, as you're saying, it's like, how do you build wealth so that the family is taken care of, the medical needs of the aging people within the family are taken care of, and probably later on to be able to pass on some of that wealth to the next generation, so that they have something to build upon.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
So in going through that, you call it the life course framework, what are the factors that will contribute to creating that?
Well, it tries to explain the different social events that a person experiences. Okay, it's one where I think you're going to look over a person's lifetime and see what has informed the decisions that they made, so that you better understand how and why they got to where they're at, or why they neglected to do something. Apathy is the biggest thing that we face, is that people, when I did research for my PhD, I found overwhelming evidence that people will claim that they just never thought about it. You never thought about growing older. You never thought about retirement. You never thought about aging. You never thought about if you would stop working ever. And they'll look at you square in the eye and tell you, yeah, no, I never thought about it. And they're being honest. I have to believe that, because it was so prevalent in the research that I did, almost overwhelming. So if 50% of the population is literally unable to or will not look at some of these issues, then look at what just happened to our potential market. It's a difficult thing to kind of to understand in the planning field, that people aren't as excited about what we do as we are. I didn't realize that my friends didn't like talking about life insurance and retirement planning until I saw this television commercial where in the United States, they had this family, and the husband goes, "Hey, honey, do you want to talk about our insurance?" And she goes, "Just as soon as I finish with this laundry," and she had it all folded nicely, she knocks it all off the table. So she has to refold it and doesn't have to talk to him. She says, "Now do you want to talk?" And he says, "As soon as I'm done raking the leaves," and he's up in the tree shaking the leaves down to the ground so he doesn't have to talk about planning or life insurance. And I looked at him and I said, "Is this true? Do all of you not want to talk about this?" And they're like, "Jim, we like talking to you, but we don't like talking about this stuff." So again, it's a thing that we need to understand, where we got to meet people where they're at, meet people in the middle. And I think that's mostly what the life course framework seeks to do.
Wow. I can highly relate with that. I started also as almost as young as you were. I started at age 25, and people weren't interested in planning at all. And it's true. We here, if you want to avoid talking to people in a flight, all you need to do is tell them that I'm part of the life insurance industry, and they'll just turn around. So
Uh-huh.
it's like they think life insurance is a toxic topic to talk to
Right.
discuss. Yeah.
Yep.
So uh what do you think are some of the factors some of the psychological factors related to financial decision making? Uh I know most people would always push aside things even if they're important. But what do you think triggers that? What how do people how can we get into their minds and dig it out?
That's a wonderful question. It's kind of like the $64,000 question, because um, I think that I believe the answer is simple, and it's easier said than done. But the work that we do implies that people care about and love the people that they're doing this for. So my job, because most of the work that I did was at night, and we'd always have to go to people's houses at night. So we work from 7 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. Go to the office, stay there all day, wait for our appointments, go out on appointments all night, be home at 10 o'clock, away from our families, trying to help other families. And it's if someone does not love their family, they don't do this planning. So my job was to find out as quickly as I could how much they love their family. That's the psychology that I believe. If someone is if I need to convince this husband who's got 3 little kids running around at the feet of the table, that he needs life insurance, and the wife is standing there pounding her fist, guess what? I'm going to go home and spend time with my kids. He doesn't love his family, and I'll identify that as quickly as possible, and I will leave. I will not try to convince him. I can't convince him. That's not my job. My job is to help the people that at least have an open mind. And the open mind is somebody who says, I love these people right here, these children. How do I protect them? And then we find the solution together, one that you can afford, one that you understand, and one that we can implement. And it's really, that's at the heart of it. And so so I say, my job is to get people to say no. If you say no, I go home to my family. But if you say yes, I have to tell you more. I have to continue to explain. And I have to share with you my knowledge and the information that I have. But if you say no, of course, I understand how to sell life insurance. And life insurance is sold, it is not bought. Okay, so I understand that. But my point is, I have to work with somebody who has a desire. And if I can, that's at the heart of the sale. If you can get to that element within, does this person care? And if you care, why do you care now? How come you didn't care a month ago? Well, because my brother-in-law just died. We've been talking about this for a year. I need to do this, and I need to do it now. Okay, all right, I'm done. Take out the application and write the application. Don't say another word. But if they don't tell you why now, why it matters now, and if they don't care, truly love someone, then we have no purpose to be there. So that's the psychology that I work with, that I try to understand, is that people are they either have some knowledge or desire, or they don't. And if they don't, there are not enough hours in the day for any of us to convince these people. They will find out on their own, and they will find out the hard way.
Jim, once you're already there, and they already expressed the need to be able to take care of their family, what type of discussion do you have with them in terms of preparing them to get older, in terms of like what are the things that they need to consider as they age, to be able to express that love they have for their family?
Well, I would say the first thing, that I tell people to do is engage socially. Okay, is that in order to be relevant and to be vital, you think about these people that we know, older adults they're out they're in the churches, and they're in the public place, and they do things, and they're in the markets, and they're active, and they're engaged. And as we age, the most important thing that we can have is friendships, social connections. And so, getting people to prepare that way, we can always get them to prepare financially in some small measures, but preparing emotionally is a difficult thing to do. And so the best indicator of people's success in later life is in social connections and social supports. And it doesn't take a lot. It only takes between like 2 and 4 really close friends. So there's a thing called socio-emotional selectivity theory, from a woman by the name of Laura Carstensen. Dr. Carstensen came up with this idea that as we age, we prune relationships and keep only the ones that we value the most. We don't have time for people that waste our time. And that's, if you think about it, it's very natural. But it's also important that you have those connections, because they're vital to people's aging. So social connectedness is the most important thing that I talk about with people to prepare them for later life.
Wow. That's so well, actually, even at my age now, I find myself with lesser friends and keeping those relationship that matters more than everyone else, because most of the time we think alike with these people. So
Right.
I really can relate to what you're even at this age actually.
Well, I
Whenever
think
my wife and I
Ryan,
talk, that's how we do it. That's what we discuss.
it's
We
important that we actually invest in the relationships, because sometimes when we don't go out with our friends, we stay, we just don't participate in some, the friendships can drift apart.
yeah.
And so you have to work at them. And men especially, women are very good at maintaining social
Yes.
connection. Men are terrible. So what happens in a situation when the wife dies?
Yeah.
This man is, he didn't handle his social calendar. He doesn't know where to go for dinner. He doesn't feel welcome. It's sad, so it's just, you have to work hard at it, invest in those relationships. Smart of you and your wife to be thinking that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways,
it's a known fact that even here in our culture, uh, the widows have their own circles, have their own support circles, and they
yes.
have this afternoon teas, afternoon coffee meetings where they just chat and chat and chat and talk about a lot of things. Whereas men would probably sit down in an armchair, read the newspaper, or watch television the whole day.
Right.
I saw that in my grandfather before he passed away in his twilight years. That's how he spent his entire day. And my grandfather was a politician. Actually, he knew a lot of people, but I guess there were fewer people his age at that time. So he just spent his time in front of the TV, sitting on his rocking chair. Anyways, so uh there is the advice is to age the way and make the most out of it. What can a person expect as they get older in relation to their financial needs? Like me, I'm practically in middle age already. I'm 46. So although I've seen how people are retiring and all, but it's different when you're already at that age or when you're already retired. Sometimes you see it in other people, but the, I think I would like to think the experience is different. So, how do we prepare ourselves?
How do we prepare ourselves? I think that, because you pointed out astutely that everybody is at a different place. And so if you really isolate what your own personal needs are, what your family's needs are, and you can, again, I like to get things down to a basic level where I understand, what is the basic need that I'm trying to meet, and then what resources do I have to meet those needs. So how can I prepare just using the resources that I have, whether they're great or small? And then lifestyle is commensurate with that, meaning that everyone's lifestyle is a little bit different, and the way that they expect to live is different. So you just need to meet that expectation. And everyone's expectation is different. I'm amazed sometimes at how really, really wealthy people react and respond. I asked somebody the other day, I said, do you think you could live on $30,000 a month? A month. And he looked at his wife and said, do you think we could make it? That's a lot of money. I mean, that's by any standard anywhere. So it's perspective. And I think that again, it's then meeting those people where they're at. What they understand and what they value is where you start, and you use the resources that they're willing to allocate.
So you were talking about probably raising enough like money to be able to sustain them in their daily needs, in their healthcare, the need for a strong support system, whether it's family or friends. Um, once people get to that age, what are the things that should they be thinking of in terms of giving back uh, something to the people that they love, or giving something back to society?
Well, if again, it's if they have financial resources, that's one thing, that they can bestow upon family and do things to help younger generations. But I think it's more about knowledge, stewardship, and family values. It's things like that they can do, where older adults can teach younger generations based on their own experience and the things that they learn. I keep saying that if you've been in the business as long as a lot of us have, that you see certain patterns, and they're not easily identifiable. But I think as professionals, we have to be able to recognize when we see something that we've seen before, like a recession or a depression or a housing crisis or inflation, like we're experiencing now. And when you recognize those different elements, I think you can react better and help people prepare better.
And how about, for example, if something, they feel something different happening to them, like cognitive decline, weakness, like what? How should they react in terms of getting support for their needs?
Well, okay, I think that it's difficult. There's a whole host of things that we could address there. And the first thing I would say to you is that all aging is not normative.
Mm-hmm.
So just because we get older doesn't mean that we will have cognitive decline. Just because we get older, it doesn't mean that we won't be able to run a marathon. I just saw a video the other day of was a race among 70 and older men in 100-yard dash. And the guy that won was 72, and he ran it in like 7.4 seconds. You could look it up on the internet. So aging is not normative. Our paths are all different. That life course perspective informs what our genetics and our behavior informs. Okay. So we've got genes that are embedded in our body about how we might live. And then we have all the decisions that we made. Did we live a healthy lifestyle, an active lifestyle, or sedentary, unhealthy, uh, you know, uh, uh, alcohol, things that are bad, smoking, and then those things will have the impact on the individual. So it's going to be different for everyone. And then I would say that because people are living longer, what we're seeing is things that we didn't see before. Okay. So cognitive decline is not normative, but it is something that most people do experience on some level. Now, people over the age of 80 have a 50% chance of experiencing some form of dementia or cognitive decline over the age of 80. But if you think about it, in decades before, people in different cultures, our culture especially, didn't live that long.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now that people over 80 are the fastest growing segment of the population, we're seeing it more frequently. So I think that this is a call to action for advisors, and I think this is why gerontology is going to help people understand what's really happening with someone. And I think as advisors, what I learned in my work studying aging and as it relates to finance is that we're going to know, as a financial advisor will be able to detect cognitive decline in a client before their doctor. Why? Because you know and understand when your client who has always been able to talk to you about the numbers, the premium, the policy, and then they become less interested and more disinterested in that, more interested in talking about family. I'll ask them some questions, and then I'll see if they can perform a basic calculation and how they react to that. And then there's a thing that we use here in the United States called a mini cog. It's a cognitive test, and it's a test that's it uses basically you draw a picture of a clock. If someone cannot tell time on the face of a clock, not a digital clock, but a regular clock, that's a strong indicator of cognitive decline. Now, they had to be able to, young kids can't tell time on a clock because they don't look at clocks, but for older adults. So then what we would do is we'd ask them to tell me, yeah, somebody looks at the clock, they say it's 10 to 10. I'd say, okay, now I want you to remember 3 words. And then I do a 3-word recall. Then I have them draw me a clock. And this whole thing takes maybe 4 minutes. But I'll tell you, it's 95% accurate in determining cognitive decline. So this past Saturday, I had the unfortunate experience of having to go attend the memorial service for a client who had just died from Alzheimer's. And she came to me and she said, Jim, I think I'm losing my mind. And people do experience it. We know when we have a loss of ability, when things are fading. So how do we help family members? We become compassionate. We become more patient. We become much more understanding. If I'm with a client that is experiencing cognitive decline, and this is a true story, and I'm taking him to the dentist, and he asked me 15 times on the way to the dentist, where are we going? I just smile and say, we're heading to the dentist, Wally. We're heading to the dentist. And then he'd look out the window, and a couple of minutes later, he'd say, where are we going? I'd say, we're going to the dentist. You don't get upset. You don't get mad. Would you get mad at a child? No. So why would we get mad at an older adult? We have to really think differently about how we're going to treat people, and then how we can prepare our families for the changes that are going to take place and the inevitable decline. And then Alzheimer's and dementia are diseases for which there are no cure, and they end in death. And that's what we need to prepare people for. The loss of memory, the loss of relationship, and then the loss of life. That's a tough role to be in if you're just a life insurance salesman. You're now an advisor, and you're a trusted family advisor when you're helping people navigate those types of situations.
Wow.
Those are great insights, Jim. I mean, it gave a whole new perspective on retirement, from retirement now to gerontology, to helping people through that aging process, through that aging stage, not just preparing the person who's aging, but also preparing the family or the support system that will guide him through that process. I think as advisors, we should be very sensitive and about these things, because we have not really thought about it in the way that we should be looking at it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about later life that we don't understand, and if we haven't been there, like if we've raised a young family, you can relate with other young families, but when you're trying to relate to older people and you haven't been an older person, it relies on your experience with your other family. What were your experiences with them? So that makes it a difficult thing for a lot of people to approach knowledgeably and say, I can help you. I have experience in this, when they're them in their own right trying to find their way.
I guess this is where a strong support system would be very valuable. So, like, actually, I had a meeting this earlier this day with one of my older clients. He's 76, and it was a good thing that his son warned me that uh, expect that she'll be asking the same questions over and over. So it's like talking to a child, and not everybody is prepared for that. And although you're right, nobody knows how it goes. So I guess how do we find the importance of or how do you think should this support system be prepared, and what are the things that they should look out for, Jim, when this already happens to our clients?
Well, I think, Ryan, I think that the answer is simple. It's as soon as I detect these changes and I know that the person, so I would then look for specific diagnosis, send somebody to a neurologist to have them tested. And in this case, with this client, it's probably very obvious that she's experiencing decline and she does have some form of impairment. So she shouldn't be conducting her business. In a lot of respects, discussing finances with people in that state will make them very agitated, very anxious, creates anxiety, and should be avoided. That's because, again, as people lose capacity and they lose the ability to understand and connect, they feel like they're being manipulated or taken advantage of, or people become very paranoid, very, very paranoid, especially with cognitive impairment. So that's something that you have to be very conscious of, and you can't take it personal. I've been involved in situations. I had this one situation where the woman died years ago, but before she died, she had an annuity with me, a very small annuity, was convinced that I took her money. And, her daughter would say, no, here's the statement, here's the policy. Jim doesn't have the money. And she was convinced that I had her money. And she went to her grave believing that I took her money. And the daughter is a client of mine today. And when she died, we made the claim and the policy paid and the annuity was transferred to her. And she goes, I knew it was there all along, but I couldn't convince her. So what put it in her head? I don't know that we understand as financial advisors, as insurance representatives, as life insurance agents, the connection that families have with us, the way they talk about us when we're not there. You know that you're a part of their lives. If they trust you enough, then they're saying, hey, did you talk to Ryan? Did you talk to Boyette? How come you didn't talk to him about this? When are you going to ask him? And they talk about this the way that we do with our family and friends. So I think that's something we just need to be really aware of.
Jim, how do you now fit this in to our practice management and make it as part of our syllabus or our engagement with clients as RFCs?
I think the way that we relate what we're talking about to the practice that you all have is by first and foremost just by raising awareness, understanding the complexities and the differences of our older clients and how they're different from the needs of a younger evolving client, and then how we help that younger evolving client understand that we say, therefore, before the grace of God go I, that someday I will be that older adult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think it's important that we start there, that we get people to think about, as advisors, we're thinking about it differently. Then I think anything that we can do to become more knowledgeable in the field of aging, in the field of finance, is going to help us serve our clients well. And so I would suggest that, and maybe I can share some of this. There's some books that I would recommend. There's some things that I would say, and these are internationally recognized. They're not just from the United States. One book on dementia is written by a woman from Scotland by the name of June Andrews. A wonderful book, very, very easy to read, written at a level that her father, who had no more than a fifth grade education, could read it. So it's very important that things be understandable. So I think as advisors, we need to invest in ourselves and invest in learning about the social aspects of aging, and think about, one of the things that we've always tried to do is encourage client engagement. So we host little events. We'll have an educational event, or we'll have a party, or we'll do something to bring people together, to get them to socialize. And so we can be the facilitators of that. You could do that, implement that in your practice. I would say that you want to keep it to a minimum, because you want to be an advisor, not a party planner. Okay. I think that's important, because people lose sight of what they're there for. You're not a travel club. You're a financial advisory firm or an insurance firm. So, past investing in yourself, becoming more self-aware. I think the other thing that people could do is just make a firm commitment to not be ageist. Ageism is the only acceptable ism today. We can make fun of old people, we can tell jokes, but we need to think about not thinking that way, because all aging is different. So we ourselves need to be fierce advocates for aging, and think about, I say I only like very young people and very old people. Everybody in the middle, they're on their own. But we need to protect and we need to help our young and our old, because they're the most vulnerable. So those are the things that I would do, that I think everybody can do to integrate some understanding of this new emergent field into the work that they do.
Just to add to what Jim said about learning about the aging process and financial gerontology, our RFC members can actually go to the IARFC store on the website and download the white paper that deals with financial gerontology. That's a good way to start learning about this thing.
Yes, it is, Boya. Thank you.
And it's free. And it's free for all our members.
Yeah.
I guess, Sir Boyet, we should also remind our other members who haven't renewed their membership, so that they will have free access. They need to renew their membership with the association, right?
Yes. Thank you so much, Jim, for being so generous with your time. We have learned so many valuable insights on financial gerontology, how as financial advisors, we have an expanded role beyond retirement planning by preparing and guiding our clients and their families in the process of aging. Please watch out for episode 2 with our guest, Constance Craig Mason, to speak about breaking into financial authorship. If you have questions on this topic, please feel free to send it in the chat box. We also invite you to watch out our IARFCPH FB page for announcements on RFC public courses. We also wish to remind our RFCs of their membership renewal. For your membership renewals, please contact Ms. Arlene Baguyo at iarfcph@gmail.com or call her at 0917-645-7846. We encourage everyone to renew their membership so that you will be able to attend our annual forum for free this August.
Our podcast episodes are shown every second and fourth Tuesday of each month. That is why it is very important that everybody should follow, or you should follow our IARFC Philippines Facebook page. So all episodes are pre-recorded and are broadcasted through Facebook Live. On behalf of our executive producer, Ms. Grace De Vera Escobar, this is the RFC Tuesday podcast saying,
It's better to be in the know than to be the last to know.
good night,
Good night, everyone.
everyone. See you in the next
See you in the next
episode.
episode.